So Psyonix have just issued bans to a number of freestylers in Rocket League, but why have they done this and why now? Well, in this video, we're going to take a look at all the factors that contribute to these decisions and my takes on it, as well as what I think could and should happen moving forward. I'm keeping the dog in, she's just come to entertain me. So for a start, let's just explain what freestyling actually is. So freestyling is... Oh, the dog's going down. So freestyling is when people try and hit really crazy cool shots, and like the coolest shots you could think possible. And this could be something like chaining multiple flip resets together, could be stupidly long air dribbles, or various other tricks and skills that I couldn't possibly list off the top of my head because there's so many different names and I couldn't even comprehend actually implementing them into my game. Freestyling has actually been showcased on the official Rocket League Twitch channel, and that's had like massive prizes such as like cars and cash prizes, with one of the most notable ones being staged at the RLCS World Championships just when was it? June? No, August. But why would freestylers all of a sudden be getting banned then? Well, they're being banned for breaking the terms of service of the game. So for those of you who don't know, most freestylers use the casual or unranked playlist to get all their clips. And the casual playlist, while often being referred to as unranked, is not technically unranked. You have a matchmaking rating in the casual playlist just as you would in competitive, but it's just hidden from the player. And this rating is given to players so that when a new player comes to the game, they aren't going to be matched up against someone who's just vastly higher skilled than they are, and they don't get like severely outplayed in their first matches. And that makes sense because that would just be awful for the game's development, because players would just take one look at it and then go, oh, this game's far too hard to actually play, I'm going to go play something else instead. So it does make sense to have that in there. And many of the freestylers that do actually play in these casual playlists, they artificially decrease their casual rating in order to get lower skilled opponents. And that allows them to be able to execute way more advanced shots and without worry of them being blocked or whatever by their opponents. So they can do this either by like forfeiting from winning positions or scoring own goals or whatever else they can think of to actually just make their rank lower. And that's the part that violates the terms of service. You are not allowed to artificially decrease your rating in either the casual or the ranked playlists. And that's why these players have been getting banned. But why now? Why all of a sudden are they deciding to crack down on this? Well, this isn't exactly a new thing, because there have actually been cases in the past of players who have been banned for doing exactly the same as this. But it was always rather rare to have these actually take place, because these cases would have to be dealt with manually by a person from Psyonix who would actually have to evaluate a player's games and determine whether they were actually intentionally deranking or whatnot. So that's obviously a very time-consuming process because it's not really feasible to do for the many freestylers out there and all the different games that they play it. But when Season 7 went live, Psyonix actually released a change to the player behavior detection, which now better detects when players are actually throwing or griefing. So this detects things like own goaling in matches, or presumably forfeiting from winning positions, etc. And this has resulted in the multiple bans that have been handed out for unsportsmanlike conduct, which is what they've released said that would be happening. Now, most of these are just handed out to like toxic people who are just like own goaling and going intentionally AFK, etc., because they are just being salty and want to ruin the game for whoever else is in the lobby, I guess. But obviously this is something that the freestyle community does too in order to keep their MMR low. Now, the shocking thing about this that I see is that these bans are for 720 hours, which is an entire month. And that is surprising, because I don't really have the stats for this, but based on like the surprise of the tweets from these freestylers, it sort of implies that this is their first ban, which you wouldn't really often see 720-hour ban for a first offense. That is like just unheard of. It's crazy. Unless someone was saying something like really obscene. And honestly, I think that punishment is a little too harsh, and it should probably be similar to like the other games in the ban, whether it's like 24 hours or like maybe even a week, but then they like increase over time if somebody's like repeating the offense. But what I can only assume is that this is based on like an accumulation of reports that the player has received over a long period of time, and it's just like applied them all sort of at once, and then that may have actually just determined them that they've got this 720-hour ban because they've said, oh, you've had like 36 reports or something of this over 36 games, so you're obviously multiple offender. But it still seems like a bit much to go straight into a 1-month ban. And with that being said, I do actually indeed believe that it is right to take action on this behavior, because it's very detrimental to the enjoyment of a lower skilled player, and it negatively impacts the growth of the game, which from a business perspective, it just really does make a lot of sense. And not only have they been banned for this, but their MMR levels in casual have actually been set manually back up to 1700. So that was from like a level like below 400 before that. So once their bans are actually over, then they cannot just go straight back into doing the same thing, because they'll be at a much higher level. So you might ask yourself, well, why do freestylers do this in casual when there are things like private matches, etc.? That's a question that I've often asked of them too. And the general consensus is, and it's partially justified, is that it's way too easy to fake clips in the private matches and local matches, etc. Because you can play with like slow-mo mutators and unlimited boost, etc. And then they can just like speed up the clip and hide the boost bar or something. And that can all be done in the editing process to make them look real. However, in my experience, cheaters always get found out, and there's always the option of like having people provide a replay file in order to have it considered like an official submission. But I can understand why there would be a concern of cheating, especially considering that recently there was like a really big cheating scandal in the freestyle scene, which did like the rounds on Twitter and everything, and it was a bit mental. Now, a lot of people actually kind of believe that I hate freestyling because I've not exactly shied away from letting my views on this sort of casual phenomenon be known. And it's like no secret that I don't agree with the matchmaking abuse. And people have often complained to me about this because we don't allow clips on the subreddit where matchmaking abuse has clearly been taking place. And that's because I'm a moderator on the subreddit. But quite on the contrary, I absolutely love watching freestyle clips. I think the mechanical skills on display are just utterly ridiculous, and I don't know why anyone would think that I wouldn't enjoy that. But regardless of this, it does seem that private matches definitely seem like the better place to be freestyling, in my opinion, because it means that you can just guarantee a match against another freestyler, and you're not going to be against someone where you're making them hate the game or whatever. It just makes more sense to me. The other thing you can do with freestyle matches as well is like you could have another member of the community there watching and able to verify that these shots are legitimate, etc. And for me, it just seems to make a heck of a lot more sense. But I'm aware that the freestyle community doesn't really agree with me on that point. But to me, it seems just like the freestyle community would rather have less trust in their own community, assuming that people are cheaters rather than believing innocent until proven guilty, which just seems a bit backwards to me. But this does seem to show that low MMR casual freestyling might very well be dying. And to be honest, I'm quite pleased with that. I see way too many complaints from low skilled players about it, and hopefully the private match solution is taken up by the freestyle community, because it would be an awful shame to see such great skill and entertainment be taken away from the community just because people would rather hold on to these silly arguments that a clip could be fake when it could equally be completely legitimate. But what are your thoughts on this news? Do you believe that this is the right move for these players to be banned? Do you think something else could be done to make things better for freestylers? Just let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, give it a like, give it a subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. Thanks very much for watching, and until next time.